you saw my intro, you know that my name's Jane of SeaJaneKnit, and this is my first episode of my podcast, and I wanted to share some of my most recent projects with you in hopes that it inspires you to try a new pattern, a new technique, or a new fiber. So jumping right in, the first project that I want to share with you is my Campside shawl. The pattern is by Alicia Plummer, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And so this is the shawl, and it is massive, absolutely massive. So I will try to hold it up so you can see kind of how big it is, but it just blocked out absolutely gorgeous. And you can kind of see the purpley gray color that I used. Hopefully the lighting's okay for that. So the yarn that I used on it is Tosh Sport, and I ended up needing to use about 2.5 skeins. I contemplated whether I was gonna leave some of the repeats off, these last kind of repeats where the yarn overs are so close together, whether I was going to leave those off and try to squeak it out of 2 skeins of yarn, but I had the 3rd skein, so I figured I might as well just go for it. And I'm glad I did. It did block out huge, but it's so comfy, cozy. I like to wear it kind of around my neck in this kerchief style, but it would be great for wrapping around your shoulders. You know, even kind of bundling it up kind of like a cowl and doing it, wrapping it multiple times, I think would be great too, especially as the weather gets cooler. Because here in Indiana, it's starting to cool off, but where we have those cool evenings, but then it warms up during the day. It's my favorite time of year. So the colorway that I used in the Tosh Sport is called Briar, and you can kind of see better when I hold it down like this. It's this kind of purpley gray color. And the pattern was just so much fun. You know, you start out with this kind of garter tab, and then you work your way out in stockinette. You have some yarn over rows that are further apart, and then as you work the sections, they get just closer and closer together. And then you finish off with this 2x2 rib around the edge. So it was a really simple knit, but it kept it interesting by changing as you go through the sections. So Alicia Plummer did an awesome job on this one because it was easy, so I could kind of think about other things as I was doing it, but kept my attention as well, so that was good. It is a charted pattern, so if you like charts, then awesome. It's perfect straight out of the library for you. There is a project on Ravelry where somebody has written it out line by line, and I wish I would have seen that before I did that for myself. So I definitely prefer the line by line instructions, but I do like seeing the chart so I kind of know what it's going to look like, but I do prefer the line by line. So there is a project in there that I can link to as well, so you can see the charted instructions, and she says that she got Alicia's permission in order to do that, so that's great. So yeah, definitely go out and look. There are so many different projects, so many yarn options that people have used. I think the pattern calls for DK weight, but like I said, I used a Sport, and it's still massive, which I love. So so this pattern, definitely a go-to for this fall, and I think that although it shows up a little more purpley here, I think it'll go with so many things this fall. So I'm excited to have that one off the needles. My next project that I wanted to share with you is this pair of socks that's hanging up behind me. I just did a vanilla sock kind of pattern. The one that I use is what Susan B. Anderson has on her blog, and I think there's a Rav pattern page for it too. But it's just a plain sock, and she just gives kind of her recipe for doing it. So there's about 1 inch of rib, and then you do about 6 inches for the cuff. Obviously they're knit top down then. You have this slip stitch kind of heel and the gusset and instep stitches, and then you work your way down to your toe for your toe decreases. It's definitely my kind of go-to sock pattern. Socks are the in-between kind of project that I have on the needles, just whether I want a break from the project I'm working on, or if I just need something that I can knit on and not really have to think about, especially this part and the foot, just knitting in the round until I get to a certain length, no big deal. I can pick it up and put it down, which is really important to me to have those kind of projects in process. So the yarn that I used for this, I am obsessed with. It is so awesome. Nomadic yarns. Ashley is the dyer there. And this colorway is the sweater weather colorway. And I think she came out with it last year. Last year is when I bought the yarn. But I think there is some available for order in her Etsy shop. And she has so many pretty colorways. She has some new fall kind of colorways for this year. So definitely go out there and check out her Etsy shop and her Instagram page. So it's Nomadic Yarns on Instagram. And she has the link there to her Etsy page as well, which is also Nomadic Yarns. And it's just so much fun. I find knitting on the self-striping yarn just makes it go so much faster because I'm not getting bored. I kind of want to see what color's coming next, and it's just fun. One thing that Susan B. Anderson has been talking about is the technique she uses when she has self-patterning or self-striping yarn is she's actually going to pull from the other end of the yarn cake to do her heel, and she does that so that you don't see how I have this one little line of the brown here. It's because I finished knitting the purple stripe, then without knitting from the other end of the ball band, I just went ahead and went on. Well, it broke up these stripes here, so by knitting from the other ball band, or the other end of the ball, I would have had this kind of a little more continuous instead of it breaking up the stripes here. So if that's something that you would prefer to have, you can use kind of that technique of, caking up your yarn. I think as it comes from Nomadic Yarn, she has it in a ball, and it's so pretty, even just to sit in a bowl on your shelf, which I do. And so if you wanted to kind of break it up, you could wind it into a cake and then say pull from the inside of the cake, and then to do the body of your, I guess I should say the cuff of your sock, and then pull from the outside to do your heel. And then once you get done with your heel and you're starting to do your gussets, you would switch back to that yarn that's from the inside of the cake to keep your pattern kind of more consistent here. So maybe I'll try that on my next pair of self-striping socks. I've got definitely some more self-striping in my stash, so those are kind of yet to come. So this again is Susan B. Anderson's How I Knit My Socks, kind of that recipe. I cast on 56 stitches because I like some negative ease on my socks. Here I have them on a sock blocker, so which I don't use to block my socks, but just more so for display. But I cast on 56 stitches, and I like kind of that negative ease on my socks. So I'm excited to wear these this fall. I actually just wove in all the ends and blocked them this weekend, so I'll be wearing those later this week. How I Knit My Socks, Susan B. Anderson, Nomadic Yarn, Sweater Weather, and I use a size US 1 for my socks. I like the density that gives on a sock yarn, but to each their own, however you like to knit them. And I'm kind of a tight knitter, so, most people, I think, would probably use a size 0 needle instead of the 1. But, and I do my socks magic loop. That's what I'm used to. I don't like fiddling around with the double point needles. But again, to each their own. I think Susan B. Anderson does hers on double points. So I think it really is just dependent upon whatever you're used to. But for me, I prefer the magic loop, and I do 1 sock at a time. I don't do 2 at a time. So just, let me know. Let me know how you knit your socks and how, if there's any tips that you can give, especially as it comes to self-striping. I think that one was an interesting one of pulling from the outside of the ball to keep the striping from breaking up. So I'm definitely going to try that next time. I did want to mention, if you do go to Nomadic Yarns Etsy page, oh my gosh, there's so many awesome self-striping yarns on there. She has one that I've been coveting since the summertime called Fierce, and it is this neon yellow, like citron kind of color, and neon pink, and a gray, and it is just amazing. So, I may spoil myself and get some of that because I think it would make some really fun socks. She also has some neat bags on her Etsy page. I have one of her sock cubes that I bought at Christmas time, and I still keep my socks in it even though it's Christmas themed. It's just the perfect size, and you can kind of fold down the edges to keep your yarn from catching on the zipper, and it has a little handle. It's just the cutest thing. So check out her Etsy shop, and I know you'll find something there you like. The next project that actually just came off the needles this past week is the Heritage Trail Hat by Amy Miller. This is part of the Plucky Fall Winter collection, and it was just so much fun. It was a different technique for knitting a hat. You actually knit it flat and then seam it, which I thought was kind of different. I've never knit a hat that way, so it was definitely a different construction, and it's so pretty with the cables. So like you saw kind of in the picture, but this is my project, and you can kind of see the cables, the beautiful seed stitch, and how it's cinched up here at the top. The stitch definition on this yarn is amazing. It's Plucky Knitter Primo worsted was what I used in the colorway Mighty Mac. The pattern calls for their cachet yarn, which is 100% cashmere and would be amazing on this hat. But I had the Primo worsted, so that's what I tried, and it worked out perfectly. I just had a very little bit left. So if you're a loose knitter, I might caution you there that it might be questionable, because the pattern does call for 200 yards, and that's exactly what the yardage is on that yarn. So, but like I said before, I'm a tight knitter, so for me, it worked out, and the stitch definition is just amazing on here. It looks huge the way that I'm holding it, but it's super cute. So I'll link to that project page on my Ravelry as well. And I think there's, the Plucky Knitter has an Instagram page, so there's always so many different inspirations when it comes to color combinations and fibers. Her fiber selection, the content in the yarn is so different. So anytime you get the opportunity to knit with Plucky Knitter yarn, you should definitely try it. It's just one of those luxury fibers that you won't be sorry you tried. So let's see. So I have so many whips right now, but right now I'm kind of taking a break and working on some in-between kind of projects or smaller projects. I have knit some socks in Regia yarn before, and I was really impressed with how much I like to work with it. It's kind of a workhorse yarn as far as the ply and the fiber content and everything, but it was really nice to work with, and kind of like the ones behind me, I like that self-patterning kind of yarn. So the one that I'm trying right now, and if you're on Instagram and follow any knitting stuff on Instagram, I'm sure you've already seen this, but this is one of the Arne and Carlos colorways that came out this summer. This is color number 3656, and it's got these blue and cream and kind of a rust color and this dark green stripe here. It's just really fun to see it knit up. So again, I'm on a size 1 needle with my magic loop. I use the Addi Turbo Sock Rocket, and I really like the tips on those for socks, or anything where you're knitting with fingering weight yarn, sweaters, shawls, you name it. So again, I'm kind of using a modified version of Susan B. Anderson's How I Knit My Socks. The 1 inch of rib, and then as you can see, I'm working the cuff, so I'm getting pretty close to the heel turn, so that's exciting, or the heel flap, so that's exciting. That part always seems to go really fast, and then as I get to the foot, I get kind of bored, but it's my pick up and put down kind of knitting, so it's totally fine. Absolutely fine. So and I think I've not done too much research into the colors, but there are new Arne and Carlos colorways that are out there for this fall, and some of them look really pretty. So I think I saw some on Simply Sock Yarn, which is a yarn shop in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they have some of the most beautiful sock yarns there, but they have a webpage, so you can go on their webpage and check that out. So maybe next week when I'll have at least one finished sock to show you, I hope, because they're kind of flying off the needles with this self-patterning yarn. Let's see. I'm just checking my list to make sure I haven't missed mentioning anything. I did want to mention Ashley at Nomadic Yarns. She has different bases for the sock yarn, and the one that I used is the Brit sock. So it's kind of a workhorse yarn too, but the way that she dyes it and her process that way just really, really softens it up. So it makes it really nice to work with. Let's see. Oh, I just got my bracelet hooked into into my shawl. I think that was all my notes there. I did want to share with you some of the sock yarn that I have had in my stash for probably a year now, and it is just so pretty. I got this at my local yarn shop, and it's some Claudia hand paints. So this colorway is called Ananda, and I'm not sure if she still makes it or if it's discontinued now, but you can see kind of the blues and that peachy tone, and oh, it's so pretty. So I have, let's see, 175 yards, so that would be 700 yards of this yarn, since I have 4 of them. So what should I make with it? I really want to wind it up and make something with it. I'm tempted to knit socks with it, but I have way more than enough to knit socks. So what should I make? 700 yards of fingering weight yarn in this beautiful kind of peachy and blue colorway. What would this be perfect for? So I know I could spend hours on Ravelry looking up patterns and trying to figure things out. And sometimes I do, I just get lost in there and then I want to make it all. So what do you guys think? What are some of your ideas? If you had 700 yards of that Claudia hand paints, what would you make with it? I look forward to hearing what your ideas are. So I think I've shared everything that I wanted to go through today. So if you have any questions for me or any recommendations as far as you want to see in the future, I am going to set up a Ravelry group and some threads in there so that you can let me know what do you want to see. And I will try to incorporate those into the next episode. So until next time, I appreciate you joining me, and hopefully you got some knitting done while you were watching some of this. I will see you next week, and until then, happy knitting!